definitely do. What questions do you guys have or problems that you guys would like me to go over in the homework? And I highly recommend you ask questions. Layla? 16? All right. Everyone has a marking pen in their hand. Everyone's writing 16 down. Even if you didn't get it right, you're showing the work. So 16 said, and I don't ever want mental math. So you're not following directions for mental math. You guys know by now you have to show me work. So 16 said, I have 595 grams, and I want to know what this is in kilograms. So what I find very helpful, and quite honestly, this is really helpful in you memorizing that diagram. Everyone's eyes are up on the board. I need you listening. You have to memorize that diagram. I'm going to tell you on the test, using a base unit of, let's say, meters, reproduce the metric system diagram, including the names of each unit, the abbreviations, and what you multiply or divide by to get from one unit to another. You're going to show me that table with your lines going between and saying multiply by 10, multiply by 10, multiply by 10. Do you guys understand what you have to be able to do on the test? So what would be a really good practice for that is, on these problems, reproduce the part that you need. That's helping you memorize it. So kilograms are bigger than grams. All right, so tell me, what are my units between grams and kilograms? What's the next one up from grams? You all should know this. What's the next one up from grams? Frankie? Decagram. So D-A-G. Deca is always going to be D-A something. What's after decagram? Mateo? Hectogram, which is HG, and then we have kilogram. I recommend that you are doing this for every problem. It's going to help you memorize and remember that diagram. All right, I'm starting at grams. How many jumps is it from grams to kilograms? Kira? 3. 1, 2, 3. So that means that I have to do something with 1,000. Because there are 3 jumps. So that means 3 zeros on my 1. All right, so 595. Well, I'm going from a smaller unit, God bless you, to a bigger unit. So let's think about that logically, because I want this to make sense to you. Here is my ruler. Everybody look up at the board. Here is my ruler. I'm actually, let me see if I have a 12-inch ruler. Here is a 12-inch ruler. Everybody look over here. Okay. Here's my 12-inch ruler. If I was to measure this door, I'm going to do it in inches. So I have 12 inches to here. I have 12 inches to here. I have another 12 inches to here. That's 24. And then I have this takes me to about 10 inches. So it's 34 inches. You guys with me? Okay. I have 34 inches. If I wanted to convert this to feet, inches are smaller than feet. How many of you guys agree with that? Okay. So I'm going to go from a smaller unit of measure, inches, to a bigger unit of measure, feet. Am I going to have more feet or less feet? I have 34 inches. If I convert that into feet, am I going to have actually more, the number itself, am I going to have more feet or less feet? Is my number, that 34, going to get bigger if I change it to feet, or is it going to get smaller? Christiana? The number of feet is going to get smaller than the number of inches themselves, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So because of that, our number, going from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, our number gets smaller. So that means that we have to divide by whatever this is. So I have to divide by 1,000. So when I divide by 1,000, my decimal right now is at the end. If I divide by 1,000, I'm making my number smaller, so I have to go into the direction of the left to make my number smaller. I'm going to do 3 jumps because I had 3 jumps between my grams and my kilograms. That's 3 zeros on my 1. I'm dividing, which means I'm going to the left. So 595 grams is equal to 0.595 kilograms. I want to see all of that. I want to see the little part of the diagram. I want to see the jumps. I want to see that you're dividing by that 1,000 or that 100, that you're multiplying by whatever that is. I want to see the decimal move. I want to see your answer. All of this is required. If you don't have that, you're all writing that down now. Romano, you're not doodling right now, you're writing stuff down. If you don't have all of that work for 16, you're fixing it now. All right, what else can I do? Aaron. That's hard, isn't it? So, okay, so if we look at 21. 21 said the mass of a banana. And we want to know the appropriate unit. Okay. When we're talking about mass, that's weight, right? So that's going to be grams. That's going to be milligrams, centigrams. So we go back to, Aaron, the ones that are the most common, and that's the ones that we had in our list. The most common ones for weight are going to be milligram, gram, or kilogram. We really don't use hectogram, we don't use decagram, we don't use centigram, we just don't. We usually use milligram, gram, or kilogram. Okay, so going between these 3 most commonly used weights, all right, which one of these would make sense? So if we're thinking of a size, all right, so a milligram is the weight of a speck of dust. A gram is about the weight of a paper clip. A kilogram is about the weight of half the weight of a textbook. All right, so we're talking about a banana. All right, it's more a matter of your opinion. So if you said gram, I might say gram is the most appropriate measure because milligrams is way too small and kilograms is just too big, is probably what I would say, right? That would be my explanation. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what I would be looking for you to do to make sense of why you wouldn't use milligrams, why you wouldn't use kilograms. And that's why you would use grams. Does that make sense? But I think that's right, isn't it? I mean, isn't that why you really, how many of you guys agree that you're like a milligram is way too small for the size, for the weight of a banana, and a kilogram is probably too big for the, I mean, I suppose you could do a kilogram, but it would probably be a super small kilogram number, right? Grams make more sense because the other 2 are either too big or too small, and I think that's a fair statement. Okay? All right, what else can I do for you guys? Really? None of you have any that you guys want me to do for you because a lot of you got, almost all of you got marked down in your work because you're not showing the work properly. Christiana? 47. All right, so 47 was one of the ones that had this table. So if we look at this table, and we take a look at 47, it said match the measurement to an equivalent measure in this table. So if we take a look at number 47, it's in kilograms. What are my only possible options that it could be? So look at all the units on all the A through I, and what are the only three that are the only ones that are possibly in contention here? Jack? Yes, they're the only ones being measured in meters. All right, so now I need to decide, all right, which one do I think is probably the best one? All right, so this is when we do some mental math to figure out which one you think it is, and then you're actually going to prove it. So, if I take a look at 0.015, how far is 0.015 from meters? How far is kilograms from meters? How far is kilograms from meters? Alex? 3 jumps. If I'm going from a bigger unit of measure to a smaller, and would this number be getting bigger or smaller? This one. If I'm going from kilograms to meters, Alex, it's going to be getting to be a bigger number. How many of you guys agree with that? Okay. So if it's going to get a bigger number, all of these are options. I do agree with that. But now we've got to think about how far we are away. So I'm going to do a little bit of mental math here. If I'm 3 away to get to meters, if I move my decimal 3 spaces to make this bigger, do I get 15? How many of you guys agree? Do you guys get 15? Okay, so that's probably why it's E. Well, let's take a look at B. How far is kilograms from centimeters? Oh my gosh, I'm not having one person raising their hand. If you don't know, get your diagram out. You're all not going to sit there not thinking. Here, get your diagram out. Figure it out. You're not sitting there waiting for someone to figure this out. Get your diagrams out right this second. How far is kilograms from centimeters, or kilometers from centimeters? Kira? 5 jumps. So, if I moved my decimal 5 places from where it currently is on this 0.015, do I get all the way to 150? Do I get all the way to 150 if I move my decimal 5 jumps? Kira? No, so B can't possibly be the answer. How about I? How far is millimeters from kilometers? Audrey? 6 jumps. If I move my decimal 6 places from where it currently is in my kilometers, do I get 1,500? Mateo, sit up and listen. Do I get 1,500 if I move my decimal 6 places from where it is here? Jack? No. So E is probably the right answer. I'm going to prove it by showing my work for that. Do you guys see what I did? All right, so now what I did is I did a little bit of mental math to figure out what I think is the best option, or what I think is the answer. Now I'm going to prove it. All right, so I have 0.015 kilometers. I'm going to see, we think this is going to be meters. I'm going to prove it. So I have meters, decameter, hectometer, kilometer. I'm starting at kilometer or kilometer. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces. So this is 1,000. I have 0.015. I'm going from a bigger to a smaller, which means I'm multiplying by 1,000. I take my decimal. When I multiply by 1,000, I move 3 spaces to the right, and I end up with 15 meters. This is always the work I have to see. So the first part of this was you doing a little bit of mental math. You visualizing that and seeing which ones can't it be, and figuring out which one we think it is, and now proving it. So what I want all of you to do right now, I want all of you right now to do the work to prove the rest of this. Right now. I've made it easy on you because you have the answers. So I want all of you right now proving the answers to all 6 of these. I want to see the part of the diagram you need. I want to see you making jumps. I want to see what you're multiplying and dividing by, etc. So use what I just did as your guide. Help each other out if you need to. I don't want to see anybody looking around trying to figure out what you're doing. Check with people by you, see if you're doing it right. Unclear about my directions. I don't understand. I know I was very clear with what I'm expecting to see. You are more than welcome, you guys, to do it the way that you want. But do not expect to get a good grade on a test or a quiz or your homework. You're either going to practice it the right way, or you can be very, very disappointed in your grade. If you're not sure, raise your hand and ask me. Look back on the ones that we've done. Yes. I don't want to see long multiplication. You're just doing the decimal work. So if I'm multiplying by 1,000, that means I'm just moving my decimal 3 places to the right. It's just how many jumps there are in between each one. So you're going kilograms to what? You're going decograms to meter, decameters to meters, is that where you're going? What are you going from? I'm not sure. All right, let's go through these. All right, it's really important you understand that diagram. So if I take a look at 48, what measurement do you think 48's answer is? What answer do you think it is? Mia? Can you talk louder? 15 meters is what you think it is. So let's prove it. So, meters is bigger than centimeters. What is it? So tell me, going back, going to the left, Mia, what is it? Meters, what's next? Decimeters, and then what? Centimeters. So, all of you are looking at the board, all of you are paying attention to the work I need to see. So Mia has shown me that what the jumps are, or the chronology, or in order from centimeters to meters. I'm starting at centimeters. Mia, how many jumps is it from centimeters to meters? So 2. 1, 2. So that means I'm dealing with 100 here. Am I going from a bigger unit of measure to a smaller unit of measure, Mia? Am I going from a smaller to a bigger or bigger to a smaller? So if I'm going from a smaller to a bigger, that means my number is getting smaller. So am I dividing or am I multiplying? Dividing. So I'm going to take my 1,500 and I'm going to divide it by that 100. I do not want to see long multiplication and long division. We're simply using our decimal work. So my decimal right now is at the end. If I'm dividing by 100, I go 2 places to the left and I end up with 15 meters. That's all the work that I should see. All right, somebody do 49 for me. Pierre, do 49 for me. What do you think it's going to be? $150 grams? All right, prove it. Tell me the order in the units. Give me the order of the units. Milligram? Excellent. So we start at milligram, right? And you said how many? I do agree with 3 jumps. So what does that mean this number is going to be that I'm using? 1,000. All right. Am I going from a smaller unit to a bigger or a bigger to a smaller? So what am I going to do with that 1,000? Am I dividing or am I multiplying? So I'm going to divide by that 1,000. So when I divide by 1,000, what happens to my decimal? 1, 2, 3. So that's 150 grams. I hope you guys are filling in your work. This is all the work I should see. Somebody do number 50 for me. Kira, what do you think it's going to be? All right, so prove it. Excellent. By the way, it's not always 3 jumps. It's just however many jumps there are between the units. All right, so that's going to be 1,000 again. Am I multiplying by 1,000 or am I dividing by 1,000? Why? Say it louder. Excellent. Going from a bigger unit of measure to a smaller, which means my number is going to get bigger. So what happens to my decimal point when I multiply by 1,000? All right. So 1, 2, 3. So that ends up being 150 milliliters. All right, somebody do 51 for me. Vincent, do 51 for me. What do you think it is? I'm sorry? All right, somebody help us out. We already have the answers, you guys. So it's not a matter of whether you got to it. We need to do it now. So what should be the answer, Vincent, for number 51? Yep, I believe it was 15,000 milliliters. So someone tell me, what am I, so Vincent, do this for me. Okay? So that's 1,000. Am I multiplying by 1,000 or am I dividing by 1,000? All right, so I move my decimal 1, 2, 3 places, which gives me my 15,000. All right, all of you at the end of your homework or in your notes, if you have them out, I need you to do a couple more for me. All right, so write this down. You're going to write extra example. All right, if I have 13 kilometers I want to know what that is in centimeters. If I have 13 kilometers, I want to know what that is in centimeters. You guys in your chapter review do not do 64. I'm going to adjust it because I do want you to do some more metric stuff. So I'm going to change that up there while you guys are working on this. Remember, you're writing down that diagram, the part that you need between kilometers and centimeters. If you're not sure, go back to your diagram. You have to have this memorized. So if I start with centimeters, what's next going up from centimeters? We need to make our way to kilometers. What's next up from centimeters? Angela? Excellent. All right, so if I'm starting at centimeters, Angela, how many jumps is, I'm starting at kilometers, how many jumps is it to centimeters? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means I'm dealing with 1 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So Angela, I'm going from a bigger unit of measure to a smaller. Is my number going to get bigger? That 13, is it going to get bigger or is it going to get smaller? So we're going to have less centimeters? No, it's going to get bigger, isn't it? I'm going to have more centimeters in those kilometers, right? So if I have 13 kilometers, I'm going to have a huge amount of centimeters because centimeters are only this big, right? All right, so that means I have to multiply. I have to multiply because I'm going to have more centimeters than kilometers because centimeters are a smaller unit, so they're going to have smaller ones. So I'm going to multiply by that 100,000. All right, so I'm going to write my 13. If I'm multiplying by 100,000, Angela, how many spaces am I moving my decimal and which direction? Okay, and I'm multiplying, so which direction am I going? So if I go left, I'm making the number smaller. I'm multiplying. Won't multiplying make my number bigger? To the right, because I need to make that number bigger. Do you guys understand that? So when I'm multiplying, I'm making whatever number I'm multiplying that number by, that 13, I'm making that bigger if I'm multiplying by 100, 1,000, 10,000. So I have to move it 5 spaces to make it bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anywhere there's not a 0 or a digit, you put a number in there. So that ends up being 13 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put my commas in where they go, every 3 starting from the right. So that ends up being 1,300,000 centimeters. All right, please get your assignment notebooks out. Make sure that you adjust our chapter review. You're not doing 64, but you are doing 57 through 62. This is due Thursday. You have 2 nights to get all of this done. So I highly recommend you start working on it if you have not already. So I've taken 64 off, and I've just added on 57 through 62. Everything else is the same. So I've taken 64 off. I've added 57 through 62. So please make that adjustment.